So it was April 2010 when I walked through that door for the first time. I'd been a barrister for 15 years. I'd spoken to magistrates, I'd spoken to county court judges, I'd spoken to high court judges, I'd spoken to the Court of Appeal, I'd spoken to the United Nations Human Rights Council. I thought I knew a thing or two about public speaking. I'd been taught by QCs the art of public speaking, the art of advocacy. And yet, what I discovered on the other side of that door blew me away. The reason I'm here tonight is that what I discovered has significant relevance for people who stammer. And I'll come on to that in a moment. But first I'd like to tell you what it is that I discovered on the other side of that door. A friend of mine had invited me to an evening she was running which was called a speaking circle. I don't know whether any of you have heard about speaking circles.
No.
What was confusing about it was that it didn't take place in a circle, and a lot of the time the people who were standing up weren't necessarily speaking. Bit of a confusing name. But what happened in that room absolutely blew my mind. The people who were standing up were really relating with the audience. They weren't just talking at them. It was a real two-way exchange. There was a quality of support in the room that I had never felt in hardly any other atmosphere, and certainly in nothing involving speaking. People were listening in a way that I hadn't experienced before, and the interaction between the way they were listening and the way the speaker was speaking, it was like something magical was going on. And I wanted to know what it was. And we practiced some simple exercises, starting off with exercises involving eye contact with no speaking involved at all. And then moving on to exercises where words were possible, but we didn't have to speak. And then there was the moment when somebody stood up to take a turn. And eventually the moment when I stood up to take a turn. Actually without knowing what I was going to say. And it was amazing. I found myself saying things I didn't think I knew how to say. I found myself discovering things that I didn't know I knew. I found myself surprising myself as I was speaking, with no preparation at all. And I rediscovered a joy in being me, which I think I'd forgotten. The me who was standing up and speaking was a me who I'd forgotten could be somebody standing up and speaking one-to-one or even in a group. It was sort of like rediscovering some sort of childhood joy in being myself. And that was absolutely amazing. And then at the end of that, to receive appreciation from people, simple 1 or 2 word appreciation, simply for my being. Not for what I said, not for my performance, not for what I did, but for the qualities of who I am. To be seen as who I am, and to have that acknowledged by people. I was so used to coming from a performance model, barrister, you've got to win the case. How good is what you're saying, but to actually be acknowledged just for being me. That was really touching and it was really mind-blowing. And it changed the way that I felt about public speaking. The other thing which was amazing was the silence. The realization that somebody can be absolutely compelling even when they're not speaking, just for their being, not saying a word. And then to choose when you speak. You choose when you speak. The feeling of relaxation and control and empowerment to know that you can be silent for as long as you need to be silent. And then you choose your moment to speak. For me, that was an amazing discovery. And the atmosphere in that room when everybody has taken a turn, whether they've said anything or not, and received that appreciation just for the quality of being them, it's an astonishing thing. And there and then I decided I needed to train in this work. I wanted to offer this work. I could see what a difference it was already making to me, or it could make to me, and I could see what a difference it could make to other people. And I decided I really wanted to train to offer this work. The other thing I thought was, oh my God, why did they not teach me this at bar school? Why do they not teach barristers how to speak this way, you know? Why do the QCs not know this? This is something very simple, it's something very powerful, and it's something very real. I suppose that's maybe why they don't teach it to lawyers, but teaching people how to be real when they speak in front of an audience, and teaching people it's okay to be real. Not to hide behind a performance, not to hide behind persona. It's just so much more relaxing just to be me, rather than trying to be somebody. And I really wish they taught me that as a barrister. So this is now what I do. Coming on to the question as to how this is relevant to people who stammer, I'd like to use somebody else's words rather than mine. Although my experience is that many people who stammer have come to the courses I run and they've had a lot of benefit from it. There is a terrific article on the BSA website, which was written by a psychologist in 2001, on his experience of facilitating speaking circles for people who stammer, and going through all of the benefits, his experience of the benefits for people who stammer of the speaking circles method. And if you're interested, I'd invite you to Google it. If you just put in BSA stammering speaking circles, that article will come up. It's quite a long article, but I'll just give you the top three. Again, he puts it slightly better than me. The first of the benefits he speaks about is desensitization. Removing the negative emotions that accompany speaking and accompany the possibility of stammering. To be able to stand there in front of a group and speak or not speak, stammer or not stammer, and to receive the unconditional support of the group sort of starts to reprogram the brain. I've heard a number of you speak about negative experiences you've had in the past, which have coloured your current speaking experiences, which is quite normal. So things we can do in a safe environment to reprogram the experience of speaking, to give you some good recent reference experiences of speaking and of just receiving support, are really useful for rewiring those patterns in the brain. The second point this article talks about is breaking the need to perform. The idea that you've got to say something. Now, of course, there are certain situations where you do have to say something. But again, just reprogramming the mind and the body into a more relaxed mode where you choose when you speak. And to be able to know that you can be in front of an audience for up to a point, as long as you need to, without saying anything, really changes something in the physiology. Really changes something in the link between the mind and the body about the need to perform. I know that if my mind were to go blank now, I could stand here for 10, 20, 30 seconds and just be with you. I haven't lost you. I'm here, you're here, we're here. And that's amazing. And the third point that the article brings out is altering self-perceptions. Because when you've been doing something for a long time and it's been something which is difficult, your idea of yourself can get changed. And to be able to actually change those self-perceptions, to receive feedback which is different, to actually have different experiences so you can change the record and change your idea of yourself. That can really start to shake things up, and that can really start to break the mold. To be able to notice that whether you speak or not, you have an impact on the group, even without speaking, and that's a positive impact just for your being. To receive that essence feedback, to receive that feedback just for you being you, and then lastly the possibility of taking a videotape home, to be able to review again and again, especially if you had a wonderful experience, to be able to review again and again and again, to reprogram your mind, to say, yeah, it was like this in the past, but look how it can be. All extremely valuable. And as I've said previously, had a lot of people who stammer come through our workshops, and a large number of them, especially if they've kept up the practice, have reported a significant amount of benefit from the method. So very briefly, what do we do? Well, the company is called Presence, and what we do is we offer workshops. We've got a basic workshop, which is our foundation workshop, and then 2 advanced workshops, and everyone who comes to one of our foundation workshops gets an invitation to a practice evening, which is a free practice evening. At least the first one's a free practice evening, and then people come along and practice. And through the practice, the work gets integrated, and after a while it starts to spill over into your everyday life. It just becomes automatic. And it's beautiful to see people change from people who have difficulty in speaking, or people who think they're confident but they've been doing it through performing, through trying to do something, change to a mode where they're actually connecting. And people going from saying, I don't like public speaking, to actually, it's all right, to actually, I love this. So that's what we do. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here this evening to tell you a little bit about it. So I'm going to say thank you, I'm going to shut up, and afterwards there'll be time for questions. So thank you very much.